These are some of the scariest last words ever said by serial killers. And I found all these on Reddit. Number 1 is Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey Dahmer is one of the most notorious serial killers of all time, and he ate a lot of people. And his last words were, "I don't care if I live or if I die, so go ahead and kill me." Number 2 is Peter Kürten, aka the Vampire of Dusseldorf. Peter was on death row for killing over 60 people and drinking some of their blood. And his last words were, "Tell me, after my head's been chopped off, would I be able to hear the blood gushing out of my head?" Number 3, John Avalos Alba. John was on death row for fatally shooting his wife while he was on probation. And his last words were, "Okay, warden, let's do it. I love y'all. I can taste it already. I'm starting to go." Next up, we have Jimmy Glass. Jimmy was on death row after he escaped prison and went on to kill 2 people. And his last words were, "I'd rather be fishing." And finally, we have Eileen Wuornos. Eileen was on death row for killing 7 men between 1989 and 1990. And her last words were, "I'd like to say I'll be sailing with the Rock, and I'll be back on Independence Day with Jesus, June 6th, just like the movie, big mothership and all. I'll be back." Hearing all of this was haunting, but that's why.
Just imagine capturing this on your Ring camera. It was 2018 and just outside of her condo in Phoenix, Arizona when Jessica Catania got an alert on her phone and saw this. According to her eventual statement, she immediately realizes she's in danger. She locks her bedroom door, she starts dialing 911, but that's when she heard it. So whoever this man was, he then pries open the living room window and pops out the screen. He's in the house. But this woman, Jessica, she's like incredibly resourceful in a stressful situation. She immediately grabbed a hammer, any weapon that she could find from her closet, and she hides in her bathroom. But while she's waiting in there, she's got the door locked, but it would only be about 3 minutes before she eventually hears police inside her condo. But the problem is, they never found the man. To this day, she has no idea who this man was or why he broke into her condo. In the investigation, police would eventually nickname him Smiles.
We need to talk about this photo, because Josh Maddox was found inside this chimney with his knees bent over his head, and he had been there for 7 years. So what happened to him, and how did he end up stuck inside a chimney for that long? Allegedly, Josh went out on a walk one day and completely disappeared, until one day a builder from Colorado Springs wanted to demolish his old abandoned cabin. And that's when Josh was found curled up and mummified inside the chimney. But the strange thing is, even though his body was found with its knees bent over his head, there were no injuries or broken bones. The coroner who performed Josh's autopsy believes he crawled up the chimney himself, and he curled up in that position to protect himself from something. But this case gets even more bizarre from here. Not only was Josh found in such an unnatural position, but he was found only wearing a thermal suit. The rest of his clothes were in the cabin neatly folded. So why would he fold up his clothes and then crawl up the chimney? The chimney also had a heavy steel mesh grate built into it, so it would have been impossible for anyone to slide back down the chimney. Many people disagree, but this terrible incident was eventually ruled as an accident, even though we'll never truly know what Josh wanted to protect himself from by crawling up the chimney. Follow for more.
This woman unalived her neighbor all because he did not accept her Christmas gift. Hi, my name is Ethan, and warning, this is a dark case. To really get into this story, 37-year-old Melissa Young was arrested for the brutal killing of her next-door neighbor Alan Williamson on Christmas Day of 2013. In court, she claimed that mental health issues was the reason behind her attack. However, she told investigators a different story. Her motive was due to Alan not accepting her Christmas gift. What was in the gift was a pair of unisex trainers and a copy of the Sun newspaper's 2014 calendar. Melissa claimed that he would not accept the gift even after she basically begged him, and that's what made her want to kill him. She pleaded guilty to homicide in 2014 and received a 20-year sentence. While in jail, she has also assaulted 2 female police officers, and let this just be a note to always accept a gift.
A man in India became infected with a deadly plant fungus in the world's first case of human infection. The 61-year-old man went to the hospital with complaints of recurring cough, hoarseness of voice, difficulty swallowing, a sore throat, and fatigue that had been lasting about 3 months. The man, who was not named, is a mushroom hunter and had no underlying health conditions that would put him at risk. It is completely unclear when he contracted the infection, since he waited a while to go to the hospital. Doctors performed an X-ray and CT scan on the man. The X-ray on his chest came back normal, but the CT scan results showed a paratracheal abscess on his neck. That's what this is right here. Paratracheal abscess can block airways and lead to life-threatening infections, which can be deadly if not caught and treated quickly. The pus was completely drained from the abscess and was sent to the World Health Organization in northern India for testing, and the man was given 2 antifungal medications to take for the next 2 months. Doctors diagnosed the man with this, which I cannot pronounce, and it is a plant fungus that causes silver leaf disease in plants. Silver leaf infects the wood and leaves of some trees, causing them to turn a silvery gray color, and is spread by airborne spores. Researchers shared that until this case, there has been no evidence that humans could be infected by this particular fungus. Of all the millions of fungi out there, currently just a few hundred can affect humans and animals as well as plants. One researcher writes, quote, "Over the past several decades, multiple new pathogenic fungi have emerged. The worsening of global warming and other civilization activities opens Pandora's box for newer fungal diseases. Rising temperatures can expedite the number of mutations that occur in fungi, increasing drug resistance and adapting them to survive in humans."
My daughter died, still calling me daddy. She wasn't old enough to even get to the stage to call me dad.
It's a slap in the face to all of Uvalde, especially the ones that lost a loved one. The AR-15 you get if you donate $5,000 to the NRA. The one at the bottom killed 19 kids and 2 teachers. The CEO of a gun manufacturing company, Christopher Killoy, defended this as an inanimate object. An inanimate object that shot 100 rounds in 2.5 minutes, killing my little cousin, Annabelle Rodriguez, 10 years old.
Children were murdered and taken from them.
My granddaughter was murdered. All we were asking for is some compassion and some respect.
This is a deliberate disrespect for the grief of these families and an attempt to shut them up, saying that their sorrow should not get in the way of our fun.
This isn't something that should even be discussed.
The life of a child is way more important than any NRA fundraising event.
Hey y'all, what if I told y'all that the classic horror movie Jeepers Creepers was inspired by a real-life killer? If y'all remember this opening scene in the movie, this is quite similar to today's true crime story. On April 15, 1990, a couple named Ray and Marie Thornton were out for a drive in Coldwater, Michigan. All of a sudden, a van passes them high speed. This kind of surprised the couple, but they just kind of went on about their business. As the couple continued their drive, Marie notices the same van that passed them earlier. She saw a man disposing a large white sheet covered in blood in a large tank by this abandoned schoolhouse. Seconds later, that same man she saw followed the couple for several miles. He saw the couple when he disposed the bloody white sheet and decided to go after them. Luckily, the couple was able to lose him. Let me tell you about Ray and Marie. These two were so bold that they decided to go back and find the man so they can write down his license plate. They went back and they saw the man changing license plates on the side of the road, and Marie also saw that there was blood on the interior of the passenger side door. So they got the license plate information and went back to the abandoned schoolhouse, and that's when they discovered the bloody white sheet and they called 911. What Ray and Marie didn't know that day was that 46-year-old Dennis Depew murdered his wife, 48-year-old Marilyn. Dennis and Marilyn were married for 18 years, and Marilyn was just not happy in the relationship and she wanted a divorce. Dennis was mad about the divorce plus the joint custody between their 3 children. That day, Dennis and Marilyn got into a heated argument, and Dennis pushed Marilyn down the stairs in front of their children. Dennis told them that he was going to take their mom to the hospital, and that was the last time that they saw their mom. The next day, Marilyn's body was found alongside a road, and she had a bullet wound in her head. There, the manhunt for Dennis Depew began. Dennis created a new identity, moved to Louisiana, and even had a girlfriend. Almost a year after the murder, Dennis was seen, and he led the police on a 15-mile chase from Louisiana to Mississippi. After refusing to pull over, the police created a roadblock and shot his tires. When Dennis stopped the car, he pulled out a .357 Magnum handgun and shot himself. Yes, y'all, he took the coward way out. You'll be surprised how many horror movies out there that are inspired by real-life killers. Alright, y'all, I'll be back to do more true crime videos for you guys.
I tried to create living zombies with uric acid in the drill.
One of those failed experiments to create a living zombie was conducted on this 14-year-old boy. Jeffrey had drilled a hole in his head and poured in acid, a crude attempt at lobotomy, but none of his victims survived.
The killing wasn't the objective. I just wanted to have the person under my complete control to do with as I wanted. It's not easy to say that, but that's what the motive was.
Why on earth would you have hurt those people? Why did you kill those people?
No comments. No comments. I cannot answer it at this time.
And that's why you killed them.
Right. Not because I was angry with them, not because I hated them, but because I wanted to keep them with me.
Nonetheless,
yeah.
You killed 7 men.
Yes, you
and
did.
I'm asking you, what got you to kill the 7 men?
And I'm telling you because the cops let me keep killing them, Nick. Don't you get it?
Not every...
Scary facts. Did you know if you smell smoke and there is nothing burning, that could mean you could be surrounded by spirits?
Now, if you've followed me for any amount of time, you'll know that I've already spoken about ElsaGate once before. If you have no clue what ElsaGate is, let me give you a brief rundown. ElsaGate refers to an internet phenomenon which happened maybe 4 years ago now on YouTube Kids. And what it would consist of is these channels would upload videos with Elsa, mostly Elsa and Spider-Man, and have really inappropriate thumbnails. Here is a very brief example behind me. And these thumbnails were that graphic and disgusting, and the videos would be very unsettling as well for children audience. And due to this, YouTube did actually start taking down all of these videos. And these videos raked in millions of views from little children. So the people behind them were making bank. But oh my goodness, it does not stop there. In fact, not has it stopped, it's gotten worse. So after YouTube stepped in, ElsaGate did die down, but people have worked their way around it. It's back, and it's worse, and it's with lots of different characters. Now, some of the thumbnails I'm about to show I've had to blur, or scribble out, because they are that graphic. Here is just one example. Example number 2. Example number 3. And example number 4. Now, I just want you to keep in mind that these are targeted to children, and on the children's version of YouTube. I don't know about you, but I find this genuinely sickening. This is so gross. And I would love to know what actually possesses people to make videos like this and aim them at children. I understand children think, haha, poo, funny, but there's a line. There's a line. Not only that, some of these thumbnails and videos are ads, so I don't know how ads work on YouTube, but I'm guessing YouTube, you have to pay YouTube for it to be advertised, and they have to monetize that and make sure the video's appropriate to be monetized. I could be completely wrong. Again, with other famous characters, as I said, this has come back. The videos are still pretty much available all over the internet. All you have to do is search in a child's character and scroll for a little while, and trust me, you'll come across something. But this time nothing seems to be happening about it, and I don't think anything will. And the reason for this is I think it's too hard to monitor. For all we know, these thumbnails could just be clickbait, but like I said, just gross. Really, really gross.
On August 12, 1967, 19-year-old Julie Helgeson and her friend 18-year-old Roy Ducat set up their sleeping bags under the stars, so no tent, about 500 meters away from the Granite Park Chalet in Glacier National Park, which is in Montana. The two were going to get to watch this crazy lightning storm that was going on, just this amazing show before they would eventually fall asleep. Eventually they did fall asleep, only to be awakened a few hours later at 12:30 a.m. by this horrible smell. And very quickly, Julie, to her horror, discovers where this smell is coming from. There's an adult grizzly bear just looming over the two of them in the darkness. And she whispers over at Roy and she says, "Play dead." But as soon as she says this, the bear just rips Roy out of his sleeping bag. It jumps on Roy's back and it begins biting his shoulder before it moves down and begins biting his legs, and then it's biting him on the back. Now Roy amazingly is able to stay silent, stay limp. He plays dead. And when the bear thinks that it's killed Roy, it turns to Julie. And now Roy can hear the sound of this bear biting into Julie through her sleeping bag, and Julie immediately begins screaming for somebody to come help them. At this point, the bear picks her up and begins dragging her downhill away from the chalet towards the woods. Roy, he gets up and he kind of runs, hobbles to this camper that's not too awfully far away, and he's pounding on the door. A man opens up the camper door and sees him all bloodied. The man gives him some medical aid and they call for help. They call Rangers. A helicopter comes in, gets Roy, flies him to a hospital, and, he makes it just fine. And then this park ranger is gathering a group of people to go look for Julie in the darkness, but it takes them 2 hours to gather enough people where they feel safe. Eventually they get about a dozen people, including a doctor, and they go down the hill in search of her. They come across a blood trail, and about 100 yards away from where she was initially attacked, in the woods, they come across Julie. And amazingly, she's alive. But her right forearm has been gnawed down to the bone. She has puncture wounds in her throat and in her chest, in her lungs. She has bite marks all over her legs, which have since stopped bleeding, which is not a good sign. So they scoop her up, they bring her back to the chalet, they get her there at about 3:45 a.m., where two doctors who are staying at the chalet begin to work on her. But very quickly they realize she's lost too much blood and they just don't have what they need to save her. There's no way that they're going to save her life. So they do the only thing that they can think to do, which is give her an injection of painkillers to ease her passing. And then a priest held her hand and gave her her last rites until he felt her go limp, and she was pronounced dead at 4:12 a.m. What nobody knew was just miles away, a different bear attacked a different girl, and it was much worse.